call this January 12th East Ridge Planning Commission meeting to order. Ms. Middleton, can we have the roll call, please?
Chairperson Chauncey.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Tuggle.
Here.
Commission Member Cornelius. Commission Member Howe.
Here.
Commission Member Miller.
Here.
Okay, before we get down to new business, we'd like to discuss the approval of minutes from our November 1st, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Anyone have any questions about the minutes? I see none. Can I entertain a motion for the minutes, please?
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Miller and a second by Ms. Howe. Can we have the roll call, please?
Vice Chairperson Tuggle.
Yes.
Commission Member Howe.
Yes.
Commission Member Miller.
Yes.
Chairperson Chauncey.
Yes. Okay, got a couple items on our agenda tonight. The first item on the agenda is going to be a rezoning application for ASA Engineering and Consulting to rezone the following properties at 930 and 931 Hurst Street, 1000, 1004 Floyd Drive, 6517 McCall Road, and 1403 Max Smith Road, rezone from R2, C1, and O2 to C4 zone district.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. So that's correct. There are approximately 6 lots for this proposal to rezone. RPA case study for the 6 lots found that the proposed residential townhomes are compatible with the surrounding residential, motel, hotel, and assisted living use. The existing assisted living apartment facility, as well as the hotel to the east of the proposed townhome development, illustrates an existing multi-unit development form that the townhomes will mimic. The townhouse development will be located between the existing single-family homes and the soccer stadium. The townhome development may serve as a transitional area between the existing residences and the new commercial development to the north. Hamilton County Comprehensive Plan shows development intensity level 1 on this site. Level 1 sites tend to have a limited transportation facilities or road networks, but they can supply intensive development. There are some height restrictions contingent on FAA approval, but no specific height or story restrictions. The only concern would be if the townhomes were significantly taller than the existing single-family commercial structures. EPB did comment on the need to retain a 20-foot easement for existing power and communication lines to the southwest boundary lines on it. Also, there should be some landscaping that should be considered along the southern parcel line to separate the townhomes and parking lot from the existing single-family subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. I think we're supposed to omit the 6517 McCall Road. Is that correct? The McCall zoning?
That one, no, I believe that is in the corner, if I'm not mistaken. That it's zoned R2, so that is, yeah, that one is in there.
Okay, the McCall Road stays. Okay.
Yeah, the 6517 McCall Road stays, yes.
Okay. My apologies.
Oh, that's fine. If I could address, when we get down to item B, the McCall Road abandonment will be not on tonight,
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Before I allow public comments, I'm going to hear from the applicant first. So if there's a representative from the applicant for ACE Engineering here, why don't you come down to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Kenny Custer, ACE Engineering, 714 Cherry Street. Mr. Chair, Commission, thank you for having me tonight. Obviously, there's multiple parcels that's on this rezoning case tonight. As you'll recall, several years ago, we've had several rezonings within this area, and it's all been as acquisitions occurred. Some of the parcels that we rezoned initially for the townhomes back at the end of 18 or the end of 19 into 20. We didn't have the rest of the parcels coupled together. We're still working on acquisitions. So a little bit of a delay on that. And then of the acquisition of the East Ridge Residence Inn came a little bit further or a little bit later into the project. So we're just trying to clean up that zoning. I know there was a lot of talk and stuff about what the retirement center or the residence inn, what that's all about. And at the end of the day, we have a project property, and as many of you know, we've been working through this process since early to late 2018 and master planning this site. As part of this master plan, as we continue to acquire different properties. We'll be cleaning up zoning. That way, once we get into the zoning's clean, then we can present new plats, plat it out correctly, and it's more of a housekeeping issue. Like I say, I know there were some people that got stirred up about the retirement center. I apologize for that, because actually that asset is staying in place right now, and we're going to continue to move forward. We recognize that that is an asset for the community. And, I mean, my grandmother was in that facility for almost a year and a half or 2 years, and my history with that facility goes back to probably around the mid-2000s under the first owner, when we did a little bit of rehabilitation to the facility. And then after his passing, the new owners came, they did some reorganization. Well, they were really shooting for the full assisted living model, but couldn't qualify based on building status and type. But we were able to get some fire protection features in there at the time. We were able to put a NFPA 13R residential sprinkler system in that building, which it didn't have. So we worked from the city side back then. We worked really hard to try to, maintain the continuity and safety of all the residents there, and I don't see that changing at this moment. That's the intent, is to continue to move forward with that. So really, it's just kind of coupling these zonings together. That way, that's all of our project property that we currently own as in one site, and then it will all be considered under whatever name that ends up being site-wide. That'll also be one of our entrances to get in. That'll run alongside that. So enhanced landscaping, enhanced exposure into the development. As the development increases, some of the residents may end up using some of the doctors' buildings around Park Ridge and stuff like that. We'll give them more of a direct route to get there, especially with their transportation. That's offered, transportation services that has traditionally been offered from the residents in. So, so again, it's more housekeeping just to clean up these zoning lines and clean up this zoning, make it a lot easier for us to finish our master plan and start laying out the actual sites within the development is where our focus is. Our focus is 100% inside the development as it relates to new buildings, new construction. We got 50 acres that were developed, 50 to 70 acres that we're developing in there, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Custer. So at this time, I'm going to open up a public hearing, and I'm going to give, if you're a resident or a business owner that lives in the area, we'd like to come down to the microphone to either speak in opposition or in favor of the rezoning. You'll have 3 minutes. Now will be your time to speak. So I don't think we have a sign-in sheet down below, so if you want to raise your hand, I'll let you come down to the microphone at this time. Okay, sir. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name's Dennis Dodson, and I have a mother that lives in the East Ridge residence. And my concern is that the residents there have not been given proper notice of this meeting. They may have been given legal notice, because I believe from what I could see, the only requirement is an ad in a newspaper. But I couldn't find myself an ad in a newspaper. I may have just overlooked it, maybe one there. But we're talking about, actually, it's like a neighborhood in a building. You've got 100 people there, approximately, that are either disabled or elderly, and that's their world. And the previous owner has made a statement back in the summer that in 2 years the building would be tore down. So that information has been in there amongst those residents since past summer. Well, then they tamped it down, and now they're saying to them that they're not going to tear the building down. They're not going to. Well, I mean, I know that eventually that's like a integral part of the 100-acre project there. I've never seen on paper what the future plans are, but I imagine it being, a 4-lane from Ringo Road, and level that building, put a 3-story parking garage or mixed-use development there, whatever. And so I don't expect to stop the rezoning. I'm not asking, don't rezone it, but I just believe that they deserve a letter in the mail. That seems to be across Tennessee. The law itself is weak as far as getting people notice. But all they've had is a sign put up last Wednesday. Some of the residents there are arguing with other residents saying, no, there's no sign out there, because the current director there is telling them, oh, I'm not going to tear the building down. Well, the thing is, there's so many people there that have conservators or people that pay their bills and watch out for them. A lot of them are out of town. And I just think it's unfair to not give a notice to it's individual addresses in that building. It's actually like a small neighborhood, and that's their world. And at this point in their life, like my mother's 91, and this is more as an advocate about the other people. My mother will be fine. She's fine no matter what happens. But the sign said the meeting would be held Monday, December the 12th. There's no such date as Monday, December the 12th. And that wasn't the city of East Ridge's fault. I have found out through discussions with some of the city members today, or the workers today, that that sign comes from downtown. And y'all just place it up as a courtesy for Hamilton County Planning Commission, I guess. But considering that, I just ask that any vote be held off until everybody in that building can receive a letter telling of a chance to voice their opinion, because believe me, there's a lot of people there that are going to say, we don't want it rezoned, we like it, the zoning it has served this community for so long. And a lot of the people in there's like 1 out of 4 in there that are East Ridge residents. They helped build this city. And to just keep them kind of in a state of confusion, at least them and their caregivers will know when they see that rezoning, and then they can check and see, what they want to do about it, if they want to speak out against it. But that's my main concern. I'd like for you to look at it as like a neighborhood in a building. And I was told that if it was a business, within 300 foot, the people would be notified if there was a zoning change coming up. They'd be notified by letter. And for those people, not a single one in there to get a letter, and only a week ahead of time, one little sign that has bad information. Mr. Custer, they even called him Mr. Cluster. So, I mean, it's just, it may be legal technically, but it doesn't follow the spirit of the law and what's currently being done as far as notifying people who it's going to have an impact. And it may be 1.5 years, it may two and a half years, but it's going to have an impact, and this is the linchpin to letting that proceed. If when you pass this, and then I think it has to be approved by the full city council, then the stage is set, all bets are off, and then it's just a ticking clock. Well, a lot of these people and their caregivers, they need a year at least to figure things out, because at the price point, about $16.50, excuse me, about $16.50 a month with one meal included, look around within a 20 or 30 mile radius and try to find me a place for just 10 people in their situation at that price point. So it's going to create anything done there besides what is currently being done is going to create trauma, and they're going to have to go somewhere and find new friends, figure out new activities. And I believe a lot of them actually, one more move could put them in the ground, actually, because there's a lot of, I talked to a gentleman, he would have came up here, but he's blind and in a wheelchair. But if he received a letter, he can't go out there and read that sign. If he received a letter, he could give that to his caregiver, and then they would at least have a heads up. Something's going on here. We need to stay up on top of it to where if we have to move you out of here, it takes a while to be prepared. And that's all I ask, that you just give them a fair chance to voice their opinion, whatever method you were to use. And I do appreciate you. And I will say, I love the idea of a 100-acre complex down there. Been in East Ridge since I was 2 days old. And that's great for the city. I mean, it's all good. But I don't want to overlook 100 residents on 1403, because actually 1403 is that whole piece of property. Tickle me if they'd rethink it, tear the convention center off the end, let the 4-lane come down through there, and leave those people alone. Some of them are in pretty good shape. They might even sell a few tickets. So with that, I respectfully thank you for the time to speak up for them.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson. Anyone else? Is there anyone else who'd like to come up down to the microphone to speak about the rezoning? I see none. So I'm going to close this public hearing. And since we did have one resident come down to speak, I'll have the applicant come back up for rebuttal purposes if you'd like to maybe address Mr. Dodson's concerns.
Yeah, I would, and I appreciate Mr. Dawson's comments. I think that a lot of those are spot on as it relates to if something was to happen to the building. But what I'm asking for today is just a conforming zoning to go with C4, which allows this same use to continue. So a lot of times when people get things rezoned, it gets a little bit convoluted when you can look into the zoning code and say, oh, well, this can be X, Y, Z, when all we're trying to do is rezone the property can continue the use of the operation. So that's what I want to kind of get across. And I don't mind going to the retirement center. You wouldn't believe that I've probably had 3 or 4 resident meetings down there over the last several years. Since I've in my current capacity, but with the city doing fire prevention and education and a bunch of other things. And I have no problem if people have questions or concerns. I'll share my email, phone number, and can be a point of contact. I don't mind that at all. I do hate that people got upset. And anytime you get a rezoning for something that you're currently living in, and it's not an ownership, like you're not the sole owner of the property, it does immediately cause that reactionary response of concern about what could be, what could happen later, what could happen down the road. And I completely understand that response, but it's just like I said in the beginning, you know, we've done the same thing with McCall and Floyd, and the end of North Smith on those rezones to make sure that everything kind of falls within the development parameters of the project property. And for all of y'all that understand project property as it relates to the border region, how it works and how we move forward. And this is just one other component of the project property. We're going to have brand new, a different style of a living community in there. And then you've got transitional care with the residents in. So really and truly, it's a model that's actually kind of built pretty well for the moment. So, and I hope I can bring some comfort, but I'm happy to meet or speak or talk to anybody. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Custer. Can I get staff to come back up, please? So, Mr. Howe, what was staff's recommendations on this to rezone?
Staff would recommend to approve.
Staff recommend to approve. And I'm looking at the RPA staff recommendations. There were no safety concerns to the public, so RPA basically had also recommended approval. So, if you don't mind, I just want to address Mr. Dodson's comments on the notification process.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that, and again, so there was a sign out front. I think it did come from downtown. It said Monday, I believe it said January the 12th. It didn't say December the 12th. And was someone down there to fix that?
So the sign itself never got fixed, and he's correct. When we get that from RPA, it's already practically, it's filled out. And what we've decided to do in the future is that we're going to have some bottom pieces of that sign that are printed in yellow. That way, if there is any mistakes on these signs, we can correct it when it comes to us.
Okay. So I would like to see the sign updated before it goes back to city council. That'll give the residents another time, you know, obviously we'll correct that oversight. And then as far as the letters that were sent out, I believe that the law is that you send out letters to the actual property owners. If you kind of elaborate on that.
That's correct. Within a 300-foot radius of that property, anything that borders it, we send out. Now, in respects to all of the tenants that are at the East Ridge Retirement Center, we don't have, nor GIS has on file those exact addresses for everybody. So it would have been, you know, that would have been up to, let's say, the owner of that building to, you know, correspond with staff to let them know, and furthermore, let the tenants know that what was going on with it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howe.
Mm-hmm.
So staff's recommendations was to approve. I'll entertain a motion here in regards to the rezoning, or a motion to discuss.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions.
We got a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Who owns that retirement center? Who's the current owner of that?
Sterling Holdings?
Okay, and they're aware of this application?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't, okay. That's the only question I had.
That's all you have, Mr. Miller?
Yeah.
Anyone else discussing?
Just so I'm clear, was the intention to keep the residents for the time being? I mean, not obviously in perpetuity, but for the time being, it was to keep it in place and just build on the adjacent corner of the property, et cetera, right? That's the plan.
Yes, the site plan actually shows some additional townhomes being placed in the parking area. at
Right,
the
like
rear,
on the
yeah.
corner.
Mhm.
But the existing residence building was staying in the current rendition of the plan.
I would convert back to Kenny on that one. I wouldn't want to answer.
Yeah, so that facility, that asset is currently in operation, and they are continuing operation, and I think they're even in the process of working on some capital plans for improvements. I don't have all the details, so I don't want to speak to that number or what that looks like. But after talking with some of the ownership group and working with them on the process, the owner speaks very highly of this property. And I've never heard a negative tone towards the property or moving away from it, but I don't know what next year holds or the year after that or what happens with the city as it continues to develop. You've got a rezoning opportunity across the street at the Budgetel. You've got some acquisitions that are taking place on up Mac Smith Road. Obviously, there's roadway plans in there. But we want to just enhance the viability of that entire area. And that's the whole kind of the backing for what we've done and what we're trying to accomplish. And Mr. Miller can attest to this from the beginning discussions is we want a true live, work, play environment. And with having that asset, it gives you that. You have different generations. You have the work method that's going to be coming on with some of the new things that we're going to be rolling out pretty soon. You get to live on site. And then this will actually be part of that development. It won't be a standalone on its own as just the Eastridge Resident Inn. It'll be coupled into the project property. So,
Do you have anything else, Mr. Tuggle?
No, thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to add, Mr. Dotson and the other residents here that are concerned about the residents there, I applaud you for sticking up for, the residents there, especially those who may not be able to stand up for themselves. But we can't insert that element into our decision-making process here on the Planning Commission. Our job is to determine if the rezoning request is the most appropriate rezoning for this property. So that's kind of my take on it. But
I would reiterate that the townhouse development is an excellent transitional zoning between the single-family home development and what you have proposed for the soccer stadium, et cetera.
yeah, and as we've been able to
It fits right into that.
Yeah, and as we've able to couple these last few pieces together and really tie everything in from a truly master planning standpoint, it's going to make everything easier now for us to parcel things off, get the roadway network with inside the development where it needs to be. We've got some roads that we really want to get put in on the interior pretty soon. Again, the season's just right around the corner, and we want more things to happen and more things going on, and we want better access into the development. Hopefully, later on they'll be able to bring tours through and walk and really enjoy, do some exercise in a really nice, safe, accessible community, and that they will be, I hope, proud to be a part of. And that's what we want. It's a community feel, and that's what I believe, and that's what I stand behind. Thank you.
thank you again, Mr. Custer. Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion in regards to the rezoning request.
I'm sorry, we're Greece, we're trying to be trouble finding this.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Miller. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Tuggle. Ms. Melton, can we have roll call, please?
Vice Chairperson Tuggle,
Yes.
Commission Member Howe,
Yes.
Commission Member Miller,
Yes?
Chairperson Chauncey.
Yes. So that item is approved. It will go to City Council for final approval. It probably won't make tomorrow night's agenda, but it may make the next City Council meeting. I believe it's going to be the last Thursday of this month. And we'll get someone out there to correct that sign. I believe that we send out additional letters to the property owners. Is that correct, Mr. Howell? We send out more letters to all the property owners like we did the first time. So hopefully that'll give any other residents there time to come if they wanted to speak to council during that time. So again, that's probably going to be at least 2 weeks from now. So you'll have that time. All right. And we'll go ahead and move to our next item on the agenda, and that's going to be the rezone application for ASA Engineering and Consulting to abandon a portion of the right-of-way on McCall Road and abandon the portion of Hurst Street at the dead end to allow for continuity of the existing development.
That's correct. Just to make a correction on new business, item B, we will not be discussing McCall Road tonight, only Hurst abandonment.
So let's let the record reflect we're going to remove McCall Road from that caption.
So it's only Hurst?
That's correct.
Correct.
Got it.
So this portion of Hurst Street that dead ends at the project property site, Hurst Street right-of-way currently provides access to 930, 931, and 933 Hurst Street parcels. The closure of the Hurst right-of-way is approximately 7,920 square feet and will be incorporated into the C4 rezone. The closure of Hurst right-of-way should not affect any services or access to the adjacent properties and will not landlock any existing properties. EPB did comment on needing another 20-foot easement for existing power and communication lines at the northern boundary. Although this is shown on sheet MR 2022-001 of the abandonment, the city wants to be clear that the Hurst closure shall maintain the same size right-of-way on Floyd Drive to Hurst Street, being around 50-foot right-of-way. Staff finds the closure of Hurst right-of-way does not negatively impact the health, safety, and well-being of the public. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Howell. Okay, we'll have the applicant come up and discuss this.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, Commission. If you would just take a look at your map, you may
Could you
already be
state your
looking at it.
name and address again for the record, please?
Oh, yeah. Kenny Custer, 714 Cherry Street, ASA Engineering. It's a habit of everybody knowing me, right? So if you look at this, the way this property is, and you don't see it on here because the utilities aren't laid out, but currently within Hurst Street and that section, I have a water main that runs to the site, power, and sewer. So there's several different easements that we're working in within that area, so there's not a whole lot that can be done within that space, but could provide for some pedestrian way and some other things that we're looking in. We own all those other properties, so it's basically just the city doesn't have to maintain any right-of-way moving forward, which is a road to nowhere essentially, because that road will not be a roadway access into the development, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Custer. I'm going to open up a public hearing for this request also. So if there's anyone here tonight that would like to come down to the microphone, you got 3 minutes. If you're a business owner or resident in the area, now's your time to come down to speak either in opposition or in favor of this request. I'll just take a show of hands if anyone wants to come down. I see none, so I will close this public hearing. We did not have any opposition or any residents. Staff's recommendation was to approve, so I will entertain a motion in regards to this request.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Tuggle and a second by Ms. Howell. Any other questions? I see none. Can we have roll call, Ms. Middleton?
Vice Chairperson Tuggle,
Yes.
Commission Member Howell,
Yes.
Commission Member Miller,
Yes.
Chairperson Chauncey.
Yes. Okay, it's all the items on our agenda tonight. I appreciate everyone coming out. If any, Mr. Dodson, I think Mr. Custer told me he would be willing to speak to you outside if y'all want to chat a little bit. I think that'd be good neighborish, like, so,